13 minutes to 9. It's been a point of endless speculation for years now whether or not the Australian residential property market is in some way being distorted by or influenced by foreign buyers. Anecdotes are not evidence, but when the Labor Party were in power, I seem to recall there was an inquiry into this and we were told it was a tiny, tiny fraction of turnover of real estate in Australia that was being bought by foreign buyers. Well, the incoming Abbott government decided it needed closer scrutiny and appointed local MP Higgins, Liberal Member of Parliament Kelly O'Dwyer, to head up an inquiry into the Foreign Investment Review Board. Yesterday, she surprised people at a conference in Sydney by saying she thought the FIRB was inept and there was inadequate enforcement. Kelly O'Dwyer, good morning to you.
Good morning, John.
Why do you say they're inept?
I didn't use the word inept. I said that I didn't think that they were properly enforcing the rules. So you can put whatever spin you'd like on that, but I certainly think that they have been very lacklustre in following up on prosecutions. There has not been a prosecution by the Foreign Investment Review Board since 2006. And when we queried FIRB on why it was that they had not prosecuted anybody since that time, they said that they thought that everybody was being far more compliant with the rules. I think that defies credibility and certainly defies the evidence that's been provided to the committee. And so we are taking a very close look at whether or not it could be better enforced. We're also looking at the penalties that should appropriately apply to people who contravene the laws.
Well, if people are in fact breaking the law, well, is it the Foreign Investment Review Board or just the Federal Police? Or
it's the Foreign Investment Review Board. At the moment, John, there is a prohibition on a non-resident foreign investor being able to purchase an existing home. And we know that not everybody who is meant to go to FIRB goes to FIRB, and particularly in circumstances where they feel that there's not going to be any penalty applied to them. We also heard evidence that those people who do the wrong thing, so for instance, if a non-resident foreign investor decides that they are going to purchase an existing dwelling or maybe multiple existing homes, and they are found out by FIRB, there is a process by which you can order divestment of that property. However, there is a real quirk at the moment in the current law. In the current law, even if we order a divestment of that property, if that property over that period of time by which they have purchased it and by the time it's divested has gone up in value, the person who has done the wrong thing, John, gets to keep the windfall gain that they make. Now, that's clearly preposterous.
Well, but meanwhile, though, there are in fact migration agents, lawyers and business agents advertising, in particular in China, it's no secret, that you can get residency in Australia by buying Australian real estate.
Well, that is not the case.
This is a thriving business.
Well, that is not the case.
Well, it may not be a legitimate case, but they're doing it.
Well, I think you're referring to the significant investor visa, and that is a visa that applies to a foreign investor who might be coming into the country with more than $5 million who are looking to invest in businesses in the country. They are explicitly not allowed to invest in residential real estate.
Well, no, what they do is, and there's a scam here, and it's not a secret, Kelly O'Dwyer. You pull money from people, you put $5 million together, you buy a block of flats and say this is an investment. You get a visa for the first person, and then you move on and you pass the money around. It goes from hand to hand because there's no requirement that you hold the property, only that you acquire the property, so you then divest yourself of it by selling it to your friend. Then they invest $5 million in Australia. It's the same $5 million going from hand to hand to hand until everyone's got their permanent residency.
No, you need to give strong evidence to the Immigration Department that your money is properly invested, and there are checks on this. Are
you serious?
Yeah, I am.
Sorry,
serious.
There's a form and you tick the box.
No
one goes and checks. No one does any proper scrutiny of this or auditing of it.
Well, look, I'll get the Immigration Minister to respond to some questions in relation to this, but we have had
Well, if you could, he's never done an interview with me since he became the Immigration Minister, Ms O'Dwyer.
Well, look, John,
he was readily available in opposition. He's not once agreed to come on this show since the election.
He's missing out, John. He's missing out because I love talking to you every time I get the opportunity to do so. But what I would say is that we have heard evidence from the Immigration Department. We did raise this issue with them. Evidence was presented to the committee on this point, that there are checks and balances in place on where people are investing their money under the $5 million scheme. There is also currently, as you would be aware, a review that is going on into the significant investor visa program, and it's a review that's very timely given that there have been a number of similar sorts of schemes around the world that have been closed or been amended in some way. We know that in Canada, for instance, they closed down their equivalent scheme, which was a lot less. It was around about $800,000 equivalent. And certainly there were issues around people seeking citizenship as a result of that and purchasing property. So we are looking really closely at this issue, but it is slightly tangential to the inquiry that we have been conducting.
And finally, what is the link between your inquiry and the property bubble, which even the Reserve Bank suddenly has noticed, but everyone else has been talking about for quite some time, which is causing, I would have thought, there's the prospect of some extreme vulnerabilities emerging in the Australian economy because of the insane rush to real estate that's leading to an overvaluing of Australian property prices?
Well, we have oversight, our committee of the Reserve Bank of Australia and also of APRA, which is the prudential regulator. APRA has said in the most recent hearing that we held that they were concerned about lending standards and perhaps a decrease in lending standards, and they have written to a number of banks asking them a number of questions about this. So that issue is being closely pursued by our prudential regulator, as is appropriate. The Reserve Bank have also been keeping a weather eye on this now for more than 12 months. Yes,
but they're not the ones who make the rules, it's the politicians. And your coffers, needless to say, of course, are replenished by donations from the people who are making the money out of the property bubble.
Well, I'm not sure what point you're exactly making there. But
well, I'm referring you to ICAC in New South Wales, where now 10 members of Parliament have been rubbed out for illegally receiving money from property developers.
Well, that doesn't have anything to do with this particular issue that we're looking at. We're very concerned where there might be a breach of the rules that apply to foreign investors wanting to come in and purchase residential real estate that they are not entitled to do so. At the same time, we also recognise that there can be many benefits from foreign investors who are looking to invest money here to build new dwellings, which increases the dwelling stock available. And we've heard quite a bit of evidence.
And if you're a seller, it's a wonderful thing. Just finally, Ms O'Dwyer, often this comes up time and time again. Why not just have a simple rule that we will reciprocate with any country that allows Australians to own real estate in their country, then those people's citizens can own real estate in Australia. So if you're not allowed to own real estate in China or Indonesia or Fiji, then Fijians or Chinese or Indonesians aren't allowed to own real estate in Australia.
Well, we certainly don't let other countries dictate their laws with respect to criminal penalties.
No, but we have reciprocity on lots. We have reciprocity on lots of other things. Why not on ownership of land?
I think the same thing applies. We make our own laws in Australia, and we can certainly look and compare our laws to the laws of other countries. And part of the review that we are conducting at the moment has actually asked us to examine what laws apply in other countries to residential real estate, and we will evaluate that and make recommendations appropriately.
It's an interesting one. Thank you indeed for your time again this morning.
Terrific. Nice to speak with you, John.
And thank you for offering to pass on our interest in a chat with the Immigration Minister if he's ever available. That would be good. It's only a year so far. Kelly O'Dwyer, who chairs the Economics Committee, doing a review into foreign investment in real estate in Australia.